Nobody has any questions at
I
all?
have a question
Yeah.
for the last one.
Hmm.
So when you're making like I didn't understand the one that starts that's like a continued line but it has a filled in circle.
Yeah, let's
It's in the
let's do
third
that real
one.
quick. A continued line, but it has a filled in circle. Let me pull this up a different way, I think. Hold on.
North Central, Mr. Bragg here. Teachers, I know that you're currently teaching, but I want to let you know about a technology issue. We've just been informed that there's a district level issue with students being able to log in right now. So it's nothing that the kids have control over. The front desk is getting blown up with calls right now from parents who are concerned. Please be mindful of that when the system comes back up, that by no fault of anything that the students have control over, this is a district issue, that if a student was able to log in prior to the system going down, they're probably still on the Zoom with you. If on the other hand, they had not logged in yet, they cannot log in. Once this is resolved, I'll come back on the PA and let you know, but please be mindful of that. His kids are struggling right now, and they're even going to send out a call to families to let them know as well. Thank you, North Central. Let's have a great day.
Funny. Okay. If you're not logged in, you can't get logged in right now. So interesting. All right. So that's well, that's not true because Tony just got in. All right. So let me go through, and that is actually what we're working on today. So the reason I wanted you guys to try that is to see what kind of stuff we'll be doing. Let me see. I don't think it'll let me minimize this anymore. So I'm going to see if I can paste this up here real quick and show you. So give me about 20 seconds here and we'll do that last one. This is, where do you go? The heart of today's lesson. Let's see. That might be the right one, might not. There it is. Sorry. Once I can drag this screenshot on here, we're good. Come on, there it is. All right. I apologize for that. All right, so number 3, this is the one you were talking about, right, Raylan? Yeah. All right. So here's what it says, and this is again the heart of what we are doing today, but this will kind of give us a lead into this. So remember, we are trying to write a function for all 3 of these pieces. So the very first thing that you guys can do, we always start with the one on the left. So the very first thing is I need to write an equation right here. All right, so the first part of this would be f of x equals, and then I know that I'm going to have 3 different ones. So the first, the second, and the third, right? So the first one is, I know that my slope is positive 1, up 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is positive 1/4 x. Oh boy, and then up 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it ended perfectly. My y-intercept would have been right there. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the equation. So by the way, if that didn't finish perfectly, then I've got 2 points, and I'd have to write the equation given the 2 points. Now, I'm not going to be that mean today, but it's possible that that could happen. But when do I use this? Well, that's the heart of this part. You know how to write the equations, but when do I use this? Only when x is, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Only when x is what?
Less than or equal to?
And that's -4. That's exactly right. So that was the first one. Now the next one, I can go ahead and write the if statement first if I want to. So I use this second one, I'll call this the second one, and I only use this when x is between -4 and it looks like +2. You see how it's open right here? So it's open, and it's closed right here, so it's or equal to. And this to me looks like it's just a straight line, right? So what's the value? Straight line, my slope is 0, so that's just going to be whatever the y value is, which is 2. The last one, I can write the if first, if x is greater than 2, and again, look at the relationship between these, where this one starts or ends, this one starts. Where this one ends, this one starts every single time. So what's the equation? I know that my slope is -1 down 2 over 1, so my slope is -2x. I keep going up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. My y-intercept would be 3. Now again, I'm sure that there's going to be some questions, but that is the heart of what we were talking about today. Last night, I wanted you to really just be able to graph it and know what's going on. Any other questions? No? All right. So last night, that was your homework. Again, I didn't want you to turn it in. That was for you to try. Here was number 1. I'm going to do this real quick. Since nobody had any any questions, I am going to do it pretty quick. So again, what this means is that's my y value. My y value is -2 if x is less than -4. So as soon as I see that, I can go ahead and make the table x, y, and I want to start with this. So -4, or I could do like -5, as long as it's less than -4. That's my start, and it's going to be open. Well, my y is constant, so it's still going to be -2. So at -1, 2, 3, 4, -2, -5, -2, and then it's going to go this way. But wait a minute, I've got a little problem here because what did I do? I kept it closed, and it should have been open. This one, again, if you want to make the table, notice I keep breaking this table down just a little bit differently. On this one, all I really need to use are these two values. When x is -4 and x is 2, it's going to be closed on both of them. If x is -4, plug it in. -1/2 times -4 is 2. -2 is 0. And if x is 2, -1/2 times 2 is -1, -2 is -3, and they're closed. So x is -4, 0, and then it's 2, -1, 2, 3. And my last one, 3x minus 5 if x is greater than 2. Again, watch what I pick. So I want to start with 2. And then I want to do either apply the slope or just pick the next one. So if x is 2, and I'm not sure if that's a 5 or a 6. Mr. Giordano actually made it, so I'll keep it as a 6. It's a 3. 9 minus 6 would be 3. So 2, 0, and that's got to be open. And then from there, I can either go 3, 3, or I could just apply my slope. Any questions? All right. Real quick, in the chat, I just want to read some of this stuff, and you can do it either privately or publicly, but on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being you don't get it at all. 5 is you perfectly understood this. I want you guys 1 to 5. So 1 is I don't get it at all. 5 is I get it perfectly. Type that in the chat, please. And again, it can be privately to me. Okay. 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 So I see a couple people that feel like they kind of get it, but for the most part, I'm seeing 3s, 4s, and 5s, couple 2s, 2.5s. Fair enough. I hope they are all at a 4 or a 5 after today. We'll spend another half day on this tomorrow, but here we go. Today, we are evaluating and writing the equations of them. If you understand how to do this, it should kind of wrap everything else up. So take a second and write this down. All right. On your homework tonight, you're going to have a couple different things to do. You're going to have to evaluate it. You're going to have to graph it, and you're going to have to write the equation. By the way, by graphing it, you're going to be comparing the graphs. So the first thing is let's go back and let's talk about evaluate the following. So I want you to tell me, and all this means is, what's the value of the function when x is -3? What is the value of the function when x is -3? I have to decide which equation do I use based on when I use them. So if my x value is -3, is that less than 2 or is it greater than or equal to 2? Well, obviously it is less than 2, so that's when I use this. I only use this equation if x is less than 2. So I would plug in -3, which gives me 9 plus 2, which is 11. That's all you do. Let's look at the second one. I want to know, I want to know what the value is there when f is 5, or when x is 5. So what's the value of the function when x is 5? So is 5 greater than or equal to 2? Yes, it is. It's bigger than 2. So I use this equation. Oh, sorry. So 5 times 5 is 25 minus 3 is 22. Let's look at number 3. What about if x is 0? That's all this is saying is, what's the value of the function when x is 0? Well, which one do I use, the top or the bottom?
Top.
Right, because 0 is less than 2. So when I plug it in, I get 0 plus 2, so the answer is just 2. By the way, you don't have to show your work on this. I know that you guys are smart and you can plug and chug. If you start making mistakes, is when you should start showing more of your work. Now, this is the one that trips almost everybody up. I want to know the value of my function when x is 2. Which equation do I use, the top or the bottom?
Bottom.
Why?
Because it
Bottom.
says equal to 2.
Because it says or equal to 2. So if it's or equal to 2, then I have to use the bottom. So it's going to be 5 times 2 minus 3. 10 minus 3 is 7. That's it. Any questions about that? Now that's the start of can you read this and do you know what's going on? So now let's go through and let's graph this again. So if we're graphing this again, what just happened? So if we're graphing this, I'm going to go back and I'm going to make the table. But I want you to see which values I use. So I'm going to do this first one in blue. So the values that I use, the values have to be less than 2, right? But I still need to know this as a point. It's just going to be open. So if they're less than 2, I'm just going to say open by this point. And I need any value less than 2. Well, I could plug in 0. I could plug in 1. By the way, I don't really even need to make a table, but I do need this point. So if x is 2 in this top, -3 times 2 is -6, plus 2 is -4. So 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it has to be open. So this is the point that I have to use, and then I want all points less than that. I could just apply my slope from right here. My slope is -3, which is down 3 over 1, but remember I want left, so up 1, 2, 3 over 1. Up 1, 2, 3 over 1. Let's make sure that works. If I plugged in 0, I should get 2. There you go. Questions? Now, next one, same thing. Now I need this equation starting at 2. So, and I want all of my numbers bigger than 2, so this needs to be closed. So what's a number bigger than 2? Well, I'll pick 3, or I could just apply the slope, right? So if I plug in 2, 5 times 2 is 10, minus 3 is 7. And my slope is up 5 over 1. It's going to go off the table, but we'll just do it like this. There you go. Real quick, just for good measure, my domain and my range, well, my domain, left to right. So left, I see an arrow. Right, I see an arrow. So it is all real numbers. Can somebody tell me what my range is here? Anybody?
Y is greater than 4.
Greater than -4.
Oh, -4, I'm sorry.
That's right. So again, all of this is on the same graph. So that's the lowest point, and it's exclusive. So it's not or equal to, but it's everything higher than -4, arrows at the top. Again, some people get confused when we have two graphs up here, like, well, what about the blue or the light blue one? It's the whole graph, the whole picture. Okay, that's it. Questions?
So like why is the domain all real numbers? Like why isn't there?
So, okay. So domain, the way you started out, y is the x, I was confused for a second. So the domain is all real numbers because if I delete everything else out here, come on. If I'm deleting that, my goodness, my computer's having issues now. Your domain is always left to right. Well, remember, this was going up in this direction, so it's going to keep moving up and left. This one, my slope was +5, so if I go from left and it's an arrow, and right, it's an arrow, that means it's going to keep going left and up, and right and up forever. So it can go on to infinity. So that is why it's all real numbers, because there's nothing that stops x from being 0 or negative or positive. But look for the arrows. That's a good question.
Where would the arrows be if it was the range was all real numbers?
So range all real numbers. So we would have something like this going up and something like this that has to be going down, right? So that means it's down forever, it's including this, and it's up forever. Now my range would be all real numbers.
So like the X arrows are like going away from each other, and then the Y arrows are like going opposite, up and down.
Exactly. So look at it going opposite directions, okay? Somebody else kind of gets confused by this. So if I did this green one and then I've got something like this, they're like, well, how am I supposed to know? Let me address that here in just a second again, okay? How are you supposed to know? Because they will make it clear by either giving you an equation or making sure it's a straight line, all right? Let me come back to that here in just a second if this doesn't answer your question. So let's go on to the second example. Let's write the graph of the function, but I actually want to start this, but oh, what in the world just happened? I want to start this by finding my domain and my range. So let's actually do this first. My domain, remember domain, let me put this up here, just for good measure. So if I'm following my domain, it is only left to right. So what do I see when I'm moving left? I see an arrow. It is continuously hitting the graph no matter where I'm drawing it. Even right here, it's touching it at that closed point, and it is continuously touching it until I get to an arrow. Because it starts and ends at an arrow, my domain is all real numbers. Any questions about that? So my range, exact same thing, but my range has to be low to high. So my range, it is a open circle, starts right here, and it is continuous all the way up. And I could stop right here because I see an arrow here. That arrow means that's going to keep going up in that direction. So it doesn't matter if that would have been a closed circle way up here, that arrow means that way down the line, it's still going to be above that. So my range, the minimum value is right here, which looks like it is -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's all y's greater than -5. Any questions? Okay. Let me get rid of some of that stuff here. Now, let's go ahead and let's write the function. Oh my gosh. This is a struggle today. It just crashed. How's everybody doing? Happy Thursday. Woo! Only one more day. My apologies. Come on. This is going to make today awful. I know you guys are thinking, why do I have so many flip charts open? Because I have really 3 different preps, and I always try and get you guys prepped ahead of time. So I really kind of need like 8 flip charts open. All right. So there. Oh, too far. Stop. Is that the one we were on? All right. So writing the graph of the function. I always start with the one that's furthest on the left. So all I have to do is find this equation. So I'm going to call this one in blue. I'm going to call that kind of equation A, okay? So how do I write this? F of x equals. Now, I'm going to do this a little bit backwards than what some other teachers might do. I want to start with the qualifying points, right? So I'm going to start with the if. I'm only going to use this equation if and it's always going to be my x's. If my x's are what? Then I look at the dot. What's my x value right here? And are they moving left or are they moving right? because
It's 0 and they're moving left.
exactly. So it has to be less than or equal to 0. Why is it or equal to?
Closed dot.
Closed dot. All right. So by the way, I can start with my second one also. So if x this time is greater than 0, and I'm going to call that b. All right. Now you wouldn't typically write the a and the b up there, but I'm just showing you. Now, let's write the equation. So I know my y-intercept is 0. My slope looks like it is up 1 and to the left 3. What's my slope there?
Is it -1/3?
That's exactly right. And then I can write plus 0, but I don't need the plus 0, so that's it. So again, we're using a lot of Algebra 1 skills here and just putting them all together. So I definitely understand the confusion. But it's also, if you just keep it simple and start at one place and a consistent spot, this really isn't so bad. So the next one, again, my y-intercept is 0, and it looks like my slope is, well, I didn't make that real easy for you, did I? I think, let's do that one. Yeah, that one looks better. So my slope on this one looks like it's positive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2. Over 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2. So my slope here is positive 5 over 2x, and again, plus 0. Now, I wanted you to start off with an easier one. So any questions so far? No? Oops. Let me put that back on. Let's try number 2. Oh boy, there's 3 things going on here. Let's start with our domain and range. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds, see if you can figure out the domain and the range. All right, so my domain, what's my domain here?
All real numbers.
That's exactly right. One of the things that I want you guys to see is that left to right, I start with an arrow, come all the way through. It's open here, but it's accounted for here, all the way through. Open here, but accounted for here, arrow. So my domain is all real numbers. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Your range is not all real numbers. Remember, range is low to high. So when I start low, I see that it's going to go on forever. But it goes on forever. Oh boy, oh man, this is tough. My range. Let's see. Well, how do I say it goes on forever, but it stops here? So if I just do my range one at a time, how would I say just this one right here? My range is what?
Y is less than -3.
That's right. Now you guys can do this all together. So y is less than 3, or what about this one here? Y is between what 2 values?
5
and
and
negative
negative
1.
1.
and negative 1. But wait a minute, those are closed, so it's in between those two values, so this should have an or equal to. Oh boy, what about this one? My range, this has no slope, so it's going to stay the same value, so it's just or y equals 6. All right. Now, I understand, and I wanted to start you off, and not a lot of people all the time think, well, these are all going to be all real numbers, or it's just going to be one thing. It can be broken up into pieces. You will talk much, much, much more about that, much more extensively next year. This year is to help you guys understand what you're doing. By the way, when we start writing this in interval notation, which we don't do until pre-cal, it actually gets a whole lot easier to write. So there's the domain and the range. Now, let's do this again one at a time. So I'll just call this one A, this one B, and this one C. So I'm going to start out f of x equals, and I'll put A here, B, and C. I like to put the qualifications in first. So I use A if, I use B if, I use C if. I only use A, and again, it's with the x's, right? So that whole saying, how do you do something that's really difficult? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So if you keep this, keep it simple, and do one small step at a time, it's pretty easy. So when do I use A? Anytime your x is what?
Less than -3.
Perfect. And I use my B's anytime what with the x's? It's between two numbers, so in between which two numbers?
-3 and +3.
Perfect. And it's closed, so I use those. By the way, just for good measure, notice where that one ended and this one started. Where this one ended, so this one has to start, and that's from all of my x's greater than where that ended. Now it's all real numbers. Let's go through and write the equations now. So as long as x is less than -3, the slope is 0, it's constant, so my y value is just 6. On B, my y-intercept is +2, so I know it's going to be something plus 2. My slope is down 1 over 1, so -1. And for C, oh boy, looks like my slope is -1 again. What's my y-intercept? I could either make a table, I could pick 2 points, or just keep following it up. +0. I don't need the +0. Does that make sense? Any questions? So I believe this is your last slide. Let me make sure. Yeah. So let's start with the domain and the range. This is the type that's going to throw most people off. Take 30 seconds, see if you can find the domain and range. All right. What's my domain?
All real numbers.
Perfect. Again, arrow, accounted for, arrow. Now, what's my range?
The same.
All real numbers.
It is all real numbers, and here's what I want you guys to see. I keep talking about the lowest thing, and some people would have said, wait a minute, but that arrow over here doesn't touch this. But what does an arrow mean?
Goes on forever.
It goes on forever. So it's going to keep going this way, and this stops, right? So because this arrow goes down forever, I know that it's going to go down forever. All of these points are accounted for, and I get to another arrow. So my range is also all real numbers. All right, now let's go ahead and write the equation. So I'm going to go ahead and write if, getting ahead of myself, f of x equals, and I'm going to label them A, B, and C. So A, I like to start with the ifs. I only use A if x is what?
Less than -3.
Perfect. My B's, oh, it's closed and it's closed. So I know that it has to start at -3. My x is between it, and where's it in? +3 again. It's closed on both. And my last one, the C, is greater than 3. Any questions there?
How did you get greater for 3 on C?
Remember, so on C, all of my x values are moving this way, right? So the arrow is showing which way it's moving. So I want to be on the right side of 3. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm just looking at my x's, right? Same thing here. It's moving left, or it's all my x's less than -3. So -4, -5, -6, -7, so on and so forth. Does that make sense?
No.
All right, what's my x value right here? So remember, we're just moving left and right. My x value right here, you know that that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is the point for -3. My x value here is 5, -1. Here, it's 6, 1, 7, 1. So what's happening when I'm going up this way? My x's are getting bigger. And how long does it get bigger for? Forever. So the smallest amount it's going to be on C would be 3, and it's not even exactly that amount. It's greater than 3. Greta, I'm not sure how else to answer that. What part are you confused on, or what part of that doesn't really make sense?
That makes more sense now.
And again, in general, you know that your x's right here are 0. As you go this way, your x's are getting bigger, right? So it's greater than. If you're going this way, they're getting smaller, or it's less than. Okay, let's keep going. We're running out of time here. So the next thing, what's the equation for this one where it's less than 3? Well, it looks like my slope is -1. Yeah, it looks like it's -1. I don't think I drew that real well. But -1x, if I kept it going, looks like my y-intercept is +8. So guys, just keep the slope going until you get there. If, and I don't think this will happen, but if it doesn't cross nice and neat at the y-intercept, then pick 2 points and then do the same writing the equation, okay? Next one, my y-intercept is 0, my slope is -1. Oh, wait a minute, was my slope -1 up here? Nobody even corrected me. Guys, so when we're in this, especially when we're in class, I try and keep you on your toes a little bit, and I can guarantee not every mistake that I make is going to be intentional, but I'm going to make a mistake at least once a class. Some of them, a lot of them, most of them are intentional. Catch me on it, because that's mistakes that you guys will make. A lot of times when you guys are moving down, you automatically think negative. This is a positive slope. So the slope here is positive 1x. Here, my slope is negative 1x. My y-intercept is 0. You don't need the 0 and you don't need the 1. If it's greater than 3, it looks like my slope is up 2 over 1. My y-intercept is keep it going, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, which would be negative 11. Again, if that would have gone way off, I could have. Goodness gracious.
Technology issues have now been resolved. Thank you so much for your patience.
Unbelievable. So you would just pick any point that's up here, like you would pick the point 4, negative 3, then you would pick the point 5, I'm sorry, 3, negative 5, and then do your slope and find your y-intercept. That's it. So I apologize, that went kind of long. You have a big ideas assignment. Check your assignment, try it. It's due at 4 o'clock tomorrow. So you have a chance to ask some questions during class. We are doing more of this, and we're going to talk about 2x2 systems, and that's all we're doing tomorrow. Any questions? Sorry, I just saw I have a chat. Yes, domain is the X. That is exactly right. It's what X is or can be. All right, so check Canvas, check big ideas, and then you guys can log off. Have a fantastic day. See you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday already. Woo! Bye. See you, Pratik.
Is it too late to switch to regular algebra?
No, Friday. Tomorrow is the last day. So if that's what you want to do, talk to your guidance counselor.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
You're welcome.